My encouragement to a young homemaker is try all the things. Learn how to bake, learn how to sew, learn how to make a video if that's what interests you. Learn how to organize a talent show and work with Canva to create graphics for it. Just learn things. Spend your time learning, because whenever you don't have kids, you have so much time. Don't squander it, because later on it's going to be really hard to pick up and do those things. And right now is such an opportunity, such a gift that you might not realize that you have been granted. My name is Lisa, mother of 8 and creator of the blog and YouTube channel Farmhouse on Boone. Join me as I share with you my love for creating a handmade home from scratch cooking and a little mom and entrepreneur life along the way. Welcome back to the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast. Today I'm going to be doing another solo episode. So I put up a question box over on Google Forms. So you can go to bit.ly/SFL, SFL is capital, questions, and submit your questions. This way, if you're not on social media, because we do ask for questions all the time on Instagram, whenever we have guests, we just put up a question box and you can ask and make the podcast very interactive that way. But a lot of you tell me that you don't really do social media, you only listen to podcasts, and so this is a way for you to go ahead and submit your questions as well. I have a bunch of them. I have a cup of coffee, and I'm ready to answer some of these questions. I really enjoy doing episodes like this because they're a little bit more informal than a lot of my YouTube videos, and there are things that, as a mother of 8, and I've been a homemaker for it'll be 17 years this fall that I've been married. There's some things I've learned over the years. Of course, there's a lot left to learn, but there are a few things I've learned over the years, and I'm going to dive into some of that today. Now, if you don't follow along with me, I know you just heard the intro and I mentioned Farmhouse on Boone. If you're only familiar with this podcast, there is a channel that goes along with this, or that is my main channel, called Farmhouse on Boone. So you can go ahead and search that on Google for sourdough recipes, and then on YouTube for vlogs. I share a weekly vlog, and I have been doing that for 6.5 years. So if you haven't looked at that yet, there's plenty of content there as well. If you enjoy a more visual form of learning, it's good for that. And then, of course, the podcast is a more audio driven. Okay, so there's so many good ones. I don't even honestly know where to start. I'll just go start with a bang here. Hi, I know you have briefly touched on your miscarriage before, but I was wondering if you'd be willing to speak more on it and how you dealt with the grief and the possible anxieties of your subsequent pregnancies. My husband and I have had recurrent miscarriages and yet to carry to term. We always wanted a large family, but the anxieties of whether we will is difficult in trying to allow it to be God's plan. So I feel like my situation is quite a bit different than yours, because we did have a miscarriage, but it was after already having 3 pregnancies. And I did have the thought after that miscarriage that something broke and I would never be able to have another baby. Of course, that was not true at that time. I mean, I'm coming at you here, let's see here, 9 years? Yeah, I believe in April. No, maybe even more than that. No, 10 years. Because it was, I think, the April before I had my son, who is going to be 9 this August. So I believe it was 10 years ago. So of course, it's not a very fresh wound. I have since had 5 more children. And so although at that time it was so devastating, I didn't get pregnant again for like 9 months afterwards. I ended up having to use some herbs to help regulate my hormones. So for those curious about that, which this is a whole topic on its own, and I've been very hesitant to share much about it. I think I have shared it a little bit, but there's an herb called Vitex. And if you have a certain problem, a certain issue, then it's really good at helping with that. If you have another issue, it might not actually be that great. Now, it is an adaptogen herb, so that means that it can work with the issues that your body is having. It's a long-term herb, so it takes several months to work, but I saw really good success with it. So that's just my little brief, like, it's something to look into, introduction to you, but then also if you maybe consult with some kind of natural doctor or midwife on it. But it has been amazing for me, and I've used it many times throughout the years to help regulate my hormones. So I don't know that I ever would have had a 4th child if I hadn't figured that out. But once I did, I got pregnant pretty fast. So for me, and I don't know if everybody agrees with this, but for me, having the next baby really did help heal my heart when it came to that, because I really just had I had already wrapped my brain around having that fourth child, and then I miscarried around 10 weeks, and then I didn't get pregnant again until the due date. So I believe I started my cycle right when I was supposed to be due with that original pregnancy, and then I had him the following, 9 months later. So although looking back, that wasn't that long of a time, at that time, every single month, it was a really big struggle. It felt like an eternity, but looking back now, of course, it was no big deal. So all that to say, I'm positive that what you're going through is extremely hard. And I do encourage you to reach out to other women. I found that when I had a miscarriage, that so many women had one. I didn't really realize that, but it was extremely common. And I just encourage you to find someone to talk to about that, because it was really hard. I'm so far removed from it now. Not to say that I can't remember that it hurt, but it's not fresh in any way. I don't still feel that, if that makes sense. Okay, what is your strategy for potty training? This has gone different over the years. So with my first two, I potty trained them before they were 2. I just basically put underwear on them. Well, no, that's kind of what I do now. It was a whole thing. I brought the little potty chair with me everywhere we went. We spent hours and hours and hours on the potty. Lately, probably since about my 4th child, I just wait until it is extremely easy. So I'm at the point right now with my child, who is 2.5. He tells me when he goes. So obviously he needs to be potty trained. A lot of days we'll put underwear on him for half the day, and then we'll be going somewhere and we put the pull-up back on him. That's not the way to do it. But the thing that I've learned over the years is it's not something to worry that much about. Pretty much no matter how you do it, they will end up potty trained. I don't let them go past 3. But I have done close to that. This summer, Theodore will be in underwear all summer. But I'm not all that worried about going past 2 anymore, because the longer you go, the easier it is. Now, at some point, again, I wouldn't go unless there's some kind of issue. I'm not going to go super late just for the sake of the child and their pride and everything. But the closer you get to 3, just the easier it is. It's literally just you put underwear on one day and they learn within just a few accidents that, oh, this is what they're talking about. And then it's no big deal. The closer you are to 2, it's kind of more of a deal. You got to bring tons of extra clothes for weeks and weeks and weeks. You got to bring the potty chair. Of course, it also depends on the child's cognitive ability. Some are easier, some are not. But that has been my experience. You can either make it like a really big thing and do it early, or you can make it literally no big deal. Like it won't even be an event. It'll just be like, yeah, he's wearing underwear a little bit later. And it's kind of, I'm in that season of life. Let's put it that way. Okay, someone says, hi, Lisa, thank you for your podcast videos. My situation is a little different to yours, but wondered if you have any advice. I work 3 full days a week and my 1 and 3-year-old go to childcare. When we get home at 4:30, I have tired and hungry kids, and it can be really hard cooking dinner before my husband gets home. How do you, or did you, keep your little kids happy while you're in the kitchen? I find it often ends in meltdowns. So, oftentimes my kitchen is really loud. I will record videos where I show what I'm making for dinner, and they're silenced most of the time. Now, sometimes everybody's happy, and so I'll keep a little bit of audio in the background with some music. It makes for a nice vibe. Most of the time I silence it if I'm actually filming making dinner. Now, sometimes I make videos where I only film it whenever it's nap time, and I'll take several clips throughout the week. So that way it's always a quiet time, and then it appears this very beautiful, peaceful video. But if I'm actually recording me making dinner with all the kids in the kitchen, I'm usually silencing it because there's a lot going on. For us, the baby right now, he is, I guess, 10 months when this comes out. I put him in the high chair and usually give him some little bits of food, like little bits of bread or egg or cheese, or today we had some apples that were getting a little bit soft. So I just dice those up, and he can play with that for a really long time. Unless he's tired, in which case he either needs to take another nap, or I can send an older kid outside to push him on the swing. And see, having older kids, it does help with that. But worst case scenario, let's say the 2-year-old I have a 2-year-old who is very prone to meltdowns. He is probably the most prone to meltdowns kid I've ever had. There's a lot of screaming going on. The worst case scenario is you're just cooking with that situation happening, and that is okay. I definitely have those times where I'm going around my kitchen and there's a 2-year-old attached to my leg and I'm kind of dragging my leg as I'm trying to get dinner made. To having some prep time beforehand. So if you work, you could get something in the crock pot or the Instant Pot. The Instant Pot will cook it, then switch to warm so that you have less steps to do with the kids around. But what I always say now, because I think this used to bother me more, and the more kids I have, the more I realize that it's okay. I don't have to give into every demand of theirs. So if my son needs me to hold him, I don't have to. He can just scream. I mean, that's okay because he's a toddler and he's throwing a fit. Now, there's plenty of times throughout the day where I will hold him, but if I need to make dinner and I have a very short amount of time to do it, I'm just gonna power through. Now, again, having older kids, having my husband home, there's lots of times where I don't really have to deal with that because, I can put him in a different room with somebody or outside, and then I don't have to, deal with it. But if you have to, it's okay. Other options, if they'll choose to accept it, because like I said, sometimes toddlers are very unreasonable and there's really nothing you can do to please them. But if you could give them some crayons or a snack, I know like that's kind of hard because you want them to eat the dinner, but a snack that won't really fill them up, like fruit or something, you could do that. I mean, again, worst case scenario, you could put on like one episode of Bluey or whatever and, get done what you need to get done. But I know it can be a challenge. As long as the child is safe, I'm comfortable just continuing to do what I need to do. And making dinner is something that even your toddler would be really mad if you didn't do. So that's just my advice. But also, yeah, like prepping ahead of time and trying to think through getting things to where it's a very easy process to turn them into dinner would be what I would also have as a strategy. And then like I'm home, so it's a little bit different, but anytime everybody's being good and I have an extra minute, that's when I just start making something, whether I throw together a dough for something I'm going to use later in the week or chop something or brown some meat. I'll just think, what can I make right now while everybody's good? So that way later, whenever it's not like that, I can work a little bit less. When you moved, were you still close enough to attend your same church, or did you find a new church nearby? If you joined a new church, did you visit several or just join the nearest Baptist church? Okay, so we went to our old church for quite a while and then realized it was too far of a drive. Then we did attend several churches, but we ultimately settled on the Baptist church close by. So kind of all of those things, really. Hi, do your older girls have a bedtime and do they follow it, or do you have to keep reminding them to go to bed? So I'm kind of laid back in this, but also they are teenagers. And so I know that when I was a teenager, I was pretty much allowed to do with my time what I wanted to, and then also suffer the consequences if I was tired or couldn't get done the things that I wanted to do. So with that being said, my girls do not have a bedtime. Even my 11-year-old son doesn't really have a bedtime. I do give them that freedom and flexibility, but everybody is different. Some of these are just so like different topics, but that's okay. We're going to hit them all. Not all, it's a lot, but we'll hit some of it that I can. Have you done anything to train your public speaking abilities for your business? I'm interested in YouTube and podcasting, but I'm not nearly as eloquent. You never say, and your speech is natural and smooth. I've never heard you talk about this aspect of your business before. I'm pretty sure I say a lot. If I don't say a lot, it might be getting edited out. Also with YouTube, it definitely is getting edited out because I edit those myself. And I know that whenever I start saying things like or like, which I do tend to do, I will edit those out or I'll stop and then restart that. So I'm not sure that I'm as good at it as you think, but I will say I know I've gotten a lot better. Whenever I go back and watch my first videos, they are very hard to listen to. You do get better at moving on through different points and getting used to talking. Now, I don't really consider this public speaking. I did my first public speaking gig last fall, and I have another one coming up this month. And I was so scared to do it because I didn't know if my experience with podcasting and YouTube would make it to where I could do public speaking. And you can't really ease into it. You're either going to get on there and just fail miserably, like get up on the stage, hundreds of people, fail miserably, or it did prepare you for it. And I wasn't sure which way it was going to go. So I first agreed to a smaller Homestead Expo that's held in Missouri, and it was fine. I was able to speak just fine. I made myself a PowerPoint presentation so that if I really couldn't do it, I could at least just read it. And there was hundreds of people there and I was not nervous. So I guess this has over the years made it to where I am better at speaking. When I was in college, I had a public speaking class and it terrified me just like everybody else. I don't know, I hated it. So I think that this really does just get easier over time. I have been sitting here talking to a camera on the podcast for over 4 years, and I have been doing YouTube for, it'll be 7 years this summer, actually. So it just gets better. It's not something I really had to prepare myself for. I just kind of stumbled through it over the years and have gotten a little bit better, if you think I did. I don't know. Do you still use a chicken tractor? What is your current setup for your chickens? The reason I'm answering this is because we have a new setup for the chickens, a brand new setup. We do have the same chicken tractor that Luke and I built several years ago. That one is still working great, but it's a little bit heavy. So we recently found some chicken tractors. I saw them at the Ozark Homestead Expo. It's called Natural Grandma. And I was really interested, but I was also a little bit they're a little pricey. They're made of aluminum and tarp. So they're really, really light to move, way lighter than when you use wood to build it, but they also were quite pricey. We ended up finding a local dealer for them, and we also were able to get a bit of a deal because they were from a few years back and they had bought a bunch of them, this local homestead place, and so they were trying to get rid of them. So they were still pricey, I'm not gonna lie, but we got 2 of them. So now we have about 45-ish chickens, and I would say, let's see, what would that be? About 15 per. We have 3 chicken tractors. We're getting like 40 eggs a day, so it's crazy. But that is a really good solution. We really got tired of chickens getting into our landscaping. They got the mulch everywhere, and we were always like putting the mulch back in, and we decided it just wasn't worth it. Also, though, lately, now that there's this cicada apocalypse everywhere, I realized how much they like it. And so I kind of told Luke, maybe we should let the chickens back out so they can get the cicadas. Instead, what we decided to do, because we hate the chickens out so much, they destroy the garden, they destroy the landscape, and they poop on your porch. We instead are having all the little boys, because we have a whole army of little boys, to collect them. So today they collected 1.5 gallons of cicadas to feed to the chickens. So we're kind of making that work because, yeah, it's not really fun having chickens free range, but also a coop and run isn't the best solution because they'll destroy the run within, a few months. It'll all be down to dirt. So having the tractors to move around, especially the lightweight ones, very happy with that situation, and that's what we'll do going forward. Okay, I've gotten this question a lot lately, which I feel like I'm not qualified for because I actually have kept on a lot of the weight from my pregnancies, but somebody says, and a lot of people have asked me, how do you manage to stay in such good physical shape with all the pregnancies? I gained around 44 pounds during my first. Now my baby's 8 months, but I still haven't returned to my regular weight. I'd love to get pregnant sometime over the next year, but want to return to before pregnancy shape prior to that. I'm afraid that the excessive weight might pile up, so to say, and then would be really hard to get back in shape. What has been your experience in that respect? So I normally am able to get down, or at least, for my first 6 kids, I got down to the pre-pregnancy weight within about 6 months with no effort. One of those people, which I know is super annoying. I gained 40 pounds and then within 6 months, I just looked like I did before I got pregnant. The last 3, no wait, only 2, I said 6. So yeah, the last 2, that has not been the case. And I definitely carried into Victor's pregnancy weight from Theo's pregnancy. And if I were in the next year or so to have another baby, I am going to be carrying it in too because I am 10 months postpartum and still have not lost that weight. So this might be something that I need to, it's a new problem for me because it never was like this before. I do think, I'm aging, I'm 38 years old. And so I think that has something to do with it. But I don't feel like I'm in tip-top shape. I don't do anything. I just continue to work around the house, care for the kids. I do cook from scratch. I make sourdough. I make kefir, yogurt, try to prioritize high protein, healthy foods, lots of eggs, lots of ferments and such. And that does seem to make it to where I stay at a reasonable weight. Because even though I did not lose all the weight, I still feel really good. I don't feel I don't feel like I have a whole bunch of weight, but I am carrying around some. Like, I did not lose it all at all. I have not weighed myself in probably 6 months-ish. I had to accidentally step on the scale I forget why. We were weighing all of our nieces, or my sisters and I, we were all weighing our kids, and they're like, okay, get on, let's weigh Victor. And I'm like, I don't want to see. And I got on and I was like, I did not need to see that, because nothing came off, and I don't feel as large as that number is suggesting to me. But I'll say I am just not going to worry about it that much. I think if my health or my energy was suffering and I felt bad, what I would do, this is easy to say because it's not happening, and this is what I would do, but I would probably lean into a really high protein diet and maybe lower carbs. Part of me is hesitant to even say that because I know that your body needs carbs. I'm also concerned that if I were to go high protein, I would lose a ton of weight, but then as soon as I introduce carbs again, I would gain it back. So I don't know. I feel like that's what I would do though if I needed to shed some pounds to feel better. I'm not going to really do anything about it. Now, I think it would be smart to do some strength training. And right after I had Victor, probably like 3 months after, I was in a routine of doing some working out, and then I totally fell off the wagon. I think I worked out for like 2 or 3 weeks. Fell off the wagon. So that is what I also should be doing. Whether I feel good or not, I should be doing that because that's just good for a sturdy body, but I'm not. So all that to say, I don't really do anything, but I do still feel good. I do still take vitamins. I try to take like a multivitamin and eat from scratch, prioritize protein and ferments, and it keeps me at a good enough shape to feel good. Okay, I've talked about this one before, but I had this conversation with my youngest sister just yesterday, and so it's fresh on my mind because she is a brand new mom. Sometimes it's hard to remember the stages that you were in once you're past them, and I have been a mom for 15 and a half years now, but I do have a fresh perspective with my sister. So let me go ahead and just read this question and I'll answer it. Hey Lisa, I love how you approach life so many things in a chill, we'll just make it work attitude. I can relate. Could you talk about the positives of growing a family past 2 kids? We have 2, ages 2 and 4, and I'm so ready to add at least 2 more, and I'm already 34, so I don't want to wait around. But my husband just doesn't get why we should have more kids to take care of. He already feels tired and knows they cost money. Though honestly, we live so minimally, I think we'll just switch diapers for the 2-year-old, for the newborn, and pass the other stuff down. Any tips for communicating the blessing of more children to my husband, even from a biblical perspective? Second question, speaking of minimalism, what kinds of baby 0 to 1.5-year-old toys do you keep? Okay, so I'll just go ahead and first start with the first question. And I don't know if what I was talking about with my sister totally ties in, but I'll share. So she is the age where a lot of her friends are having their first babies. She's the youngest of 4, and her older sisters have kids. And so she is coming into it with a bit of a different perspective than a lot of her friends because she has moms that are so much more seasoned, that are very close, and we talk to her all the time. And so we have a lot of things that we're sharing with her about the experience, and she's learning all of that and not worrying about some of the things that she's noticing that her friends with new babies are worrying about. So just like for an example, we were talking about sleep schedules and how when I had my first baby, my whole day revolved, it didn't at first, but after a while, and I couldn't get her to sleep at night, my whole day would revolve around how to get the baby to sleep. So we'd worry about naps. We worried about when she'd sleep during the day so that the night would, with the wake windows and all this stuff. And if you go on a Reddit forum like r/sleeping babies or whatever, you will find a bunch of frantic moms who are worrying about the wake cycle, the sleep. And it's just like this really stressful, horrible thing. And I basically told her before her baby was even born, you don't have to do that. The baby will eventually sleep. And by adding all of that onto your plate of worrying about every little thing, it not only ruins your day with the baby because you're so worried about every little thing, you can't really go anywhere. And to be honest, this is when you should have the most flexibility in your day. Whenever you have one baby, you have so much freedom. I can't even tell you. But it's like this paradox because you can't see that. And then only looking back can you see it. And she was able to kind of wrap her brain around that. And she's really enjoying having her one child because she's not worrying about all the little tiny things that you worry about so much when you have one child that later on you just can't even worry about them. And so they become a non-thing. And then you're like, wait a minute, I could have not worried about that before. And anyways, I just, with Ruth, my oldest, I, in a lot of ways, ruined her babyhood and what should have been a really easy time looking back and a fun and a free time by worrying about every little thing. So all that to say, when you have more kids, there are a lot of things that you end up letting go. You gain some perspective on with experience, and you end up being more laid back about a lot of things that you worry about a lot when you have one or two. The financial thing, kids are expensive, but of course you can choose to do things or not do things. We, in the last year or couple years, we've done a little bit of traveling, and it is expensive. That's something that with a lot of kids, you really can't do. I mean, you can, but you need to figure out how to go to the grocery, get a place that has a kitchen, and hopefully that's not going to be that expensive because you have to fit all your kids, or maybe everybody can sleep on the floor. Get a one-room place with a kitchen, cook all your meals. Even the tickets just to get into the places you're going to go are going to be really expensive. But those are just things that you just won't do, and that's going to be okay. To convey the blessing of children, one thing I would do or encourage you to do is talk to older people. You would not believe how many times, and Luke and I were talking about this because we just got back from Colonial Williamsburg, and there were a lot of old folks, and we draw a lot of attention because we have a lot of kids. And so we just get old people who, smile, they want to talk to you, they want to tell you about their kids and their grandkids because, it's neat and fun and rare to see a family with so many little children. So we get lots of comments, and you would not believe how many old folks say they either were so glad they had more children or that they wish they would have. I get told that all the time. Like, I just wish we would have had a few more. And you would think it would be maybe the opposite based on all the horror stories you hear. Very rarely does somebody say, or never, I've never really heard somebody say, I regret having a child. Now, apparently, if you search on Reddit and YouTube, apparently that is a thing, a movement, but I think that's the exception. I don't think that happens very often. So that's just kind of been my perspective on it, is the value of each child that we have far surpasses what it takes for me to care for them, to raise them. So obviously it's a different call for every family, but it's tricky whenever a husband and wife don't agree on that, because it can be challenging, because what you're wanting each person to agree to, like you want more, that's a huge commitment for him to have another child. He wants less. That's a huge commitment for you to not have that child. So that's a tricky situation. Luke and I were always pretty aligned on it, so I haven't had to deal with it a whole lot. I have had people close to me in my real life who have, and that was agreed upon through lots of prayer, either prayer that he'll change his heart on it, or prayer that you will be content with the kids that you have. So, and then of course, scripture does talk about children being a blessing. That is all throughout the Bible. So that's another place to dig and find encouragement on that. Music lessons don't need to be boring, stressful, or expensive. Voteberg Music Academy offers online lessons that siblings can share in the comfort of your own home. Instead of dragging kids to lessons and paying hundreds of dollars for only 1 month, use my code LisaBass50 to get 50% off the first month your children learn piano, fiddle, guitar, mandolin, or ukulele at votebergmusicacademy.com. For only $15, get weekly lessons, practice printables, 24/7 access to your instructor, live student onboarding calls, and video vaults that provide dozens of extra lessons for students who would like to progress faster. With Voteberg Music Academy, you will never have to nag your children to practice as they work toward earning badges on their success path and performing for community student showcases. Again, use my code LisaBass50 to get 50% off this month and give your children a lifelong love of music over at votebergmusicacademy.com. This is, again, lots of random questions here. How did you fit 6 kids in the Odyssey? How did you lay out the car seats? What car seats? Which seats did you use, etc.? So I mentioned in a previous episode that we did not get the big van until I was about, I don't know, 7 or 8 months pregnant with my 7th child, because you can fit 6 kids in the Odyssey. And my sister, she is currently pregnant with her 7th. She currently has the Odyssey and she has 6 kids. She does not yet have a vehicle to fit all 7 of hers. We are not the type of wanting to have a bigger vehicle than the kids you have, because there's a lot of reasons. You have to use more gas, of course. Driving a big van is not for everyone. To fit in a parking spot is very hard. I usually go straight to the back of a parking lot. I have to, watch for kids before I get in because they're so large. There's a lot of blind spots in them. We had an aftermarket backup cam installed in it. They don't have a lot of cargo space, even though they have a lot of space for kids. My Nissan does not have a lot of spots for cargo. So anyways, it's not a van I would just rush to unless you absolutely had to. So for the Odyssey and how the layout was for myself when I had 6, then for Laura right now, as she currently has 6 in the Odyssey, you use every seat. And you can fit 2 car seats, especially if you get a slimmer one, but even ours are pretty big. You can fit at least 2 per row, and then you can put a booster or a kid that has a seat belt. But you do use all the rows. Kids have to jump over the seats because whenever you use all the seats, there's not an aisle. You just kind of make it work. I mean, it's not perfect because you do have the car entirely full, but for all the aforementioned reasons, the Nissan NV, the Ford Transit, which we had on our vacation last week, they're not great either, to be completely honest. I'm not a car person, so I don't really care that much about what it looks like or whatever. But just with the size alone and the gas mileage, the Honda is a nicer vehicle, in my opinion. So I would squeeze those kids in if you can. Tips for the first-time mamas and breastfeeding. Sometimes you just want to chat with another mom who is more experienced about breastfeeding challenges and not the professional or doctor who unintentionally intimidates you, of course. Okay, so what I have told all of my sisters, because I had the first child, and whenever my sister had her first, I was just about to have my third. And when I went to the hospital, I told her, first thing, they're going to try to get you to supplement. And of course, don't take this as medical advice. I know that there are cases where you have to supplement. I just knew the whole entire situation with her child because I was there, and I knew she did not need to supplement in this case. She just didn't. And sure enough, the doctor did want her to supplement. And for so many reasons, it could cause the baby to have nipple confusion. I won't go too far into that, but I told her, just don't do it. The baby will nurse. For that baby, she had the epidural. And so sometimes the baby doesn't want to nurse right away. Long story short, this child ended up nursing for almost 3 years. They had a wonderful nursing relationship. So I told her, just make sure to, that natural process needs to happen. So you need to latch the baby on. Sometimes the baby won't latch great, but you just have to keep trying. Some people have to do the nipple shields. I never had to do any of that. Now, what I did have a lot of with all but 2 of my children is pain. So you read on all the breastfeeding websites, even La Leche League, I believe, says this. And I'm not saying they're wrong, but I'm saying I am glad that I just pushed through. They say that you're not supposed to have any pain. And if the latch is correct, you aren't. But sometimes you can't get the latch correct fast enough and you will have pain. But the alternative, yes, you're trying to fix the latch, but the alternative would be to pump and then get your baby and your body used to that whole process instead of just pushing through the pain. And then after about 2 weeks, that goes away and then you have a great nursing relationship. So with 6 of my 8 children, I had really bad pain. One that I didn't was actually my most recent, Victor. I fully expected to have pain because I'm so used to that. For about 2 weeks, nursing's excruciating every time they latch on. It's terrible. And then your body kind of gets almost like calloused and then it doesn't hurt at all and it's all good. But with Victor, I did not have pain. It could be because we reversed his tongue tie on day 1 or 2. I believe my midwife did it on day 2. So that's probably why. I'm sure it is a bad latch that's causing me all the pain. But I still think from my personal experience that if you do have pain, yes, you should try to figure out how to correct the latch, but you also should just keep going because within a couple weeks, even if you aren't able to correct the latch, you don't really experience more pain. And then you have a child who knows how to nurse. Your body knows, how to make the milk based on the nursing. You're not dealing with a pump. And ultimately, it ends up just being an easier process. I don't have to worry about bottles. I don't have to bring anything with me. It's, I guess I just want people to know that there can be a lot of pain associated with it. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. I think whenever we feel pain, we think that this is the anomaly. I'm doing it all wrong. My baby can't nurse. And I would just hate to see you jump to that whenever after just a little bit more time, it can be so easy. So I've nursed 8 kids. I've never had to supplement. I've never had to pump. I've had to pump maybe to go on a date night or something. But for the most part, it has worked. Now, I always have had babies that latched on. I don't know what I would do with that challenge if they didn't. So that's not something I've had to deal with. Pain has been a definite aspect of my nursing journey. I don't know. I have found nursing pretty straightforward, to be honest. It has not been a super big challenge, and just in my experience. Okay. I had a few business questions. And for those of you who don't know, I do have some business courses. I have a blog masterclass and a blog course called Create Your Blog Dream, as well as a YouTube class called YouTube Success Academy. I have been running the Facebook groups for those and the courses for, 6 years now? That's crazy. Well, I did 6 years ago was the blog course. And then 4 years ago, I added on the YouTube course. And then all I've done for those is update them and manage the Facebook groups and, just basically maintain those courses. So I do get questions on business because this is what our family does full time. We have been for over 6 years now. Luke has been home from his job and this is what we do, which is such a blessing. So I do have a lot of experience in all of this. So one of the questions is, in one of your podcasts, you spoke about how you're able to do so many things because you have help and assistance. When you were first starting out in business, did you immediately hire help to stay organized, or did you do everything yourself at first? Also, how many littles did you have when you first started? I can't remember. Did I answer these last time? I feel like I might have answered this one last time. Let's see if I answer it different. No, I think I might have at least answered something similar. So I had 4 kids whenever I started. My 4th was a baby, and I don't know why I decided when my 4th child was a little baby to start a blog, but I had spent the last, he's 8 now. So I guess I had him maybe 9-ish years into my marriage. I had spent that first almost decade learning how to bake sourdough bread, how to sew, how to garden. And I had a lot of experience to share at that point. I'd also been a stay-at-home mom for 8 years-ish at that point. I think my oldest was 8 when I had him. So I felt like I had a lot of just, nothing perfect. I was still very much on that learning journey, but I had a lot to offer to homemakers at that point, possibly homemakers who were just starting out. So I decided to start a blog. And yes, at first I had no budget whatsoever. So I did not pay for a course. I did not pay for a theme. I bought the cheapest hosting possible. I did not know what I was doing. And as I earned a little bit of income, which started first with a physical product shop, I literally sewed things and sold them. I started bringing in help. So first I brought in people to maintain that, to sew and ship products. And I worked on the blog. Then I brought on somebody to help with the blog. And then I started video. Then I brought on somebody to help with the video. And just that has been the process over time. There have been lots of shifts throughout the years. So currently I'm editing all my YouTube videos. I have been doing that for a couple years now. Not the podcast, not what you're seeing now, but my videos on my Farmhouse on Boone channel. I hired somebody to completely manage this podcast, reach out to the guests, do all the editing, uploading, promotion, whatnot. So it has just been a process over time, one little step, just one foot in front of the other, because it has been over 8 years. And I've been working in some capacity on this probably every day for the last 8 years. Now, of course, we take vacations. I answered a few emails. I worked ahead so that I didn't have to really work on vacation at all. And it's not a lot, but it's just a little bit each day. And I've probably been doing that for sure for over 8 years. So yeah, I hired help pretty quick, like pretty soon after I made $1, I put that $1 back in. I didn't, take all the profit right away because, and I still don't, obviously, because I wanted to expand my brand and my business. So if I was going to start the next thing, like start a podcast, I knew I did not have the time for that. I have the same amount of hours every day with homeschooling, with kids. There's just a little short window every afternoon where I can do stuff like this. Sometimes I record a podcast. Sometimes I'll voice over a video. Sometimes I meet with people on Zoom on my team. So it's a short time and I have to be able to fit it in there. And if it starts spilling out, I have to hire somebody new. So that has just been a process over time. Now, the other question regarding business I got, this is going to be kind of a niche question. So you might care, you might not, you might understand what I'm talking about, or you might not. With all the updates with Google and so many losing their rankings, do you feel blogging is still a stable career choice for earning 6 figures a year or more? So I do still feel that. And in my course, so for those of you who don't know, maybe you don't care, but Google has changed things in the last, mostly I'd say 6 months or so. As AI has become more prevalent, they are trying to really figure out who's the expert and who's not, who's just writing things on keywords just to rank and who's not. And in all of that shifting and shakeups, they have unintentionally, or maybe intentionally, I don't know to what level I'm going to go conspiracy theory on this, but taken bloggers who do have experience in something and their blogs have lost rankings. So it's a whole shift in the industry, but the strategy really does remain the same. And originally, whenever I made my course, I talked about getting on Instagram and sharing the same things that you're making on your blog on there and on YouTube and Facebook, and just kind of creating a well-rounded business to meet your audience where they are. And I think that's becoming as important as ever, maybe more important than ever, because this is what shows Google, this is a real person. This is somebody who people look to for answers in this subject. So to answer your question on the blog, I still think blogging is a very viable career option. I see people still making their blogs a success. I do think that with blogging, it'll take a little bit longer than something like YouTube or Instagram, where you can have some virality and make something. I keep getting my light all messed up. So if those are on YouTube, that's why I keep changing my light here. Make you an overnight success. Now, that's never happened to me. I've never had virality. There have been a few things here and there that have gone a little bit better than others, have reached 1 million views, but I've never had something reach 20 million views or just way far surpassing what I normally do. That is possible for people. It does happen with things like Instagram, with YouTube. My youngest sister, she just started a YouTube channel, already quite profitable. And I've seen that being a faster way, because with something like blogging, it takes a little bit of time to establish your authority in a subject. So it really just depends on how much effort you're going to put into establishing yourself as an authority, creating a more balanced, well-rounded brand across multiple platforms. So yes, I still think it's very viable. For my sister and I, it's still our number one revenue driver for our businesses, higher than podcasting, higher than YouTube, definitely higher than Instagram. But I do have a lot of time in it. And, it just depends on too, what kind of income you're wanting to make with it. I still think that it's a very possible thing to bring in some money while not investing a ton of your time. Okay, let's see here. Okay, I said it was my last one, but I'm not going to end on a business note because not all of you care to start businesses at home. I do think a lot of you do because a lot of you are homesteaders and homemakers. And sometimes it's just fun to have a side project. That's what I was talking with my youngest sister yesterday, and we got on a lot of subjects. Man, I'm like, wow, everything was talking with my youngest sister. But she was saying how much more, I guess is fulfilled the right word, but maybe fulfilled in motherhood and how much more fun it is now that she also has a project to do. So for a lot of moms, and I talked about this with Katie Votberg from Now That We're a Family, when she was on my podcast, we talked about this concept of sometimes moms have too much time and we end up doing things that aren't the best for our mental health. And I mean, we all fall into this, but like scrolling on Instagram or TikTok and like just bombarding ourselves with information. Sometimes a project will pull you out of that. And so even if you want to start a blog or YouTube as just a hobby and maybe earn a little bit of extra income, I still think it's really worthwhile for a stay-at-home mom to have a project like that. Oh, that's been the experience for my youngest sister. And it was for me too, 8.5 years ago. Okay. This is what we will end on. Advice for young, unmarried homemakers. What advice would you give your daughter? So, I mean, in a lot of ways, my oldest daughter, actually my oldest two daughters, are kind of unmarried homemakers. They do a lot of homemaker tasks because they are interested in it and they are becoming well-rounded, and that is what I encourage them. So, for example, my oldest daughter would really like to start a YouTube channel, and she's filmed herself doing several things, sewing things, watering her window box. She maintains the one that's in this cottage. Making her coffee. I let her have espresso now and then, and so she'll make like a espresso drink and create like a homemaking vlog, cut flowers and everything. But she was a little bit concerned because she really wants to get her YouTube channel off the ground. And the last several weeks, we've had so many things. We had a vacation. We went to Colonial Williamsburg. We have a maker's market coming up. It's a homeschool thing where kids make stuff and sell it. My kids love it. They have a talent show that my kids actually planned. I have basically nothing to do with it, but they rented a local park. They made the program for it. They made a Google form, sent it out to a bunch of homeschoolers. They have all these things going on. She's like, when am I going to do my YouTube video? I'm like, listen, this is the advantage of being a 15-year-old. You don't have to make any money. You don't have to worry about your kids or, all the things that an adult has to worry about. This is a beautiful, wonderful time for you to become well-rounded, to learn all the skills. You, right now, and I told her this like exact thing, if you spend your time when you are 15 learning all of these things, when you are 20, you will be able to, on a just quick turn of just no problem at all, take what you have learned and turn it into whatever it is that you want. I'm like, is it money you want? Is that why you want to start your YouTube channel? She's like, well, yeah, I want to save for a car and I want to save for things whenever she's a planner. So she's thinking about like her house when she's 21. But I told her, if you're going to gather skills right now, that will serve you better to even fulfill the goal. If money's the goal, or if making your home is beautiful, or caring for your children, if that is your objective, your gathering skills now will serve you better than making some money here and there from your YouTube channel whenever that is not something that you need to do right now. So my encouragement to a young homemaker is try all the things. Learn how to bake, learn how to sew, learn how to make a video if that's what interests you. That's what interests her. She does make a lot of videos. Learn how to organize a talent show and work with Canva to create graphics for it, and just learn things. Spend your time learning, because whenever you're saying you're an unmarried homemaker, so you don't have kids, You have so much time. Don't squander it, because later on it's going to be really hard to pick up and do those things. And right now is such an opportunity, such a gift that you might not realize that you have been granted. And I had that happen with me. I didn't really take seriously anything until I had my daughter, and I wanted to learn to cook from scratch for her. I wanted to learn how to sew her dresses. But I took that first year of marriage, I didn't have any children. I kind of wasted it, to be completely honest. I didn't know what I had whenever I had all that time, and I didn't know what to do with it. It took me a while to figure that out. So that's my advice. I wouldn't get hasty about like wanting to build something, or I would just take that time, be very productive, learn everything, become well-rounded, find what you're interested in, and that'll serve you really well down the road. All right, well, I hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast. Again, don't forget to submit your questions. There were some good ones here that I had not seen because I had not checked this since my last one. I'm trying to do every third episode a solo episode, so I'm going to be answering lots of questions. Now, the next solo episode is going to be a fun one, a very different one. I get asked a lot about my parents' house. Well, I helped my mother, me and my youngest sister. We both are sort of design-minded, if you will. And we recently, and I think I talked about this several times throughout this last year on the podcast, but we helped her completely make over her house. And so I'm gonna go to her house and talk about what we did and talk about decorating an open concept, because her house is basically, or my parents' house is basically one giant room. And I really think we made some significant improvements. Now, I did a bad job of getting before, so I'm gonna have to crowdsource those from my sisters. I know somewhere in their camera roll, they have pictures or something, like we're gonna be able to find it. But I do wanna share that with you. So that's what the next solo episode is gonna be. But then on that following one, I'm gonna be answering more questions. So I'd really love it if you went to bit.ly/capital S, capital F, capital L questions, lowercase questions. It is case sensitive, but a lot of you were able to find it nonetheless, because I have a lot of questions here and I would love to see some more. All right, well, I will see you in the next episode of the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast.